Timmy.
There we
Damn
go.
it, Bobby.
There we go with another alias.
Damn it, Bobby.
Whack it in the shed.
Are you the same boys that stole my cat, painted my house blue? Here we go down the rabbit hole again. Not the rabbit hole we're supposed to get down.
Well, it's always fun to try something different.
Yeah. Speaking of rabbit holes, what we got this week, Norm?
Sea monsters or lake monsters.
Nice. Spooky things in water, they go together.
Oh yeah,
Monsters of the aquatic
it's
persuasion.
It's a good one because monsters and the lakes and oceans have been around since man first ventured out in the wooden canoe or wooden rafts.
Well, that's what 70% of the Earth is covered in water, and I know we're 70% water, but there's more
There's more water than there is land.
Exactly.
Yep.
Maybe my percentages are off, but there's.
And we still have not explored our ocean depths as much as we've explored the moon and Mars, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Much of our
Inner
oceans
space
are not explored to this date.
Wow.
That's kind of that's a lot of area that is undiscovered.
Or officially explored. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, officially.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of unofficial stuff off the books.
There's some subjects there for future discussion that we could talk about.
Well, yeah, I know I've heard the stories of certain submarines that have ran into things
Cliff mounts.
of an organic type nature.
Well, that too.
Kind of Marianas Trench type stuff.
Cities, underwater vehicles, stuff like that. But that's for another topic.
So what we're going to talk about today then, specifically?
Have you ever heard about the Loch Ness Monster?
Oh, yeah, Nessy.
One of my favorites.
You know, that old show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, that was that one and Bigfoot were two of my favorite shows on In Search Of.
Yeah.
Nessie has been around for quite a while. The earliest report of Nessie goes back to the 6th century. A monk actually reported seeing him or her wandering around the lake, swimming. The exact size of the creature is unknown. Some say it's serpentine. Some say it looks like a dinosaur.
Yeah, I've heard the plesiosaurus theory.
There was a picture taken in the early 1900s of what looks like a plesiosaur, but it has been debunked. That they're saying it was fake.
Yeah, I've heard whatever the guy's name was.
Talking about the surgeon photo.
Yeah. They carved it out of wood, and it was just taken from. It was a perspective type photo.
Yeah.
Or forced perspective, I think is what that's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when somebody takes a picture of a snake, but they've got the snake a lot closer to the camera than.
Yeah.
Like they're hanging it on a hook, and it looks like you got an 8-foot rattlesnake, and it's only actually 3.5, 4 feet long.
Exactly. Nessie came more to prominence in around 1933. This is around the time of that picture taking, and that's when the Loch Ness Monster became more mainstream and has since then been mainstream. There's been attempts to locate it with sonar, picture traps, or camera traps, divers, but they're limited because of how cold the water is and how deep it is.
Yeah.
Up there in the loch.
Now that's not the only picture though. That's just the most famous, right?
Most famous. I haven't seen any other ones I could find. I've seen sonogram pictures, which shows something.
I've seen pictures, people taking it like of splashes, and then the ones with the humps in the water, stuff like that.
And the one in the 90s, remember the flipper?
Yeah.
Kind of a pectoral flipper.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
700 square miles of water, you can hide a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
And the biggest thing that I think that was like the crux of it being there, being able to survive, was like, is there, a plausible food source there for it? And I think they've figured out that there was, plenty of food in there. But also I heard, and I don't know how, accurate this is, but I've heard that they actually did a study that some of those caves connect to the ocean.
Yes. Yep.
So this could be that the loch could just be like a nesting ground, or just like, and that's why you don't hardly ever see it,
A
because
migratory place.
yeah,
Right.
you know, like
Place to lay
where
its
the,
eggs.
you know, like where the
Salmon.
you know, where the salmon go up in Capistrano, and but
There was a drawing even of the Loch Ness where it was on land, walking on its flippers. A guy was driving at night and come across it near the road. It wasn't too far off from the beach, and it was not too far inland. The headlights scared it, and it wallowed back into the water.
I mean, you've got Nessy, and you really the other two that you got that are up there as far as somewhat close with fame will be Champ and Ogopogo. Is there any others other than the three of those that are?
Alaska, believe it or not. Alaska, in its waterways, there and off the state, there's a report sightings of a serpent-like creature that's been seen 25 to 30 feet, multiple humps. Not much more. There's been video mostly. It's similar to the Champ sightings. I remember. I didn't get to read too much in it. I just what I did read on it, and they're similar. It's similar to the Champ sightings, except this is in salt water, not fresh water like Champ or Nessy.
Yeah.
And for the likes of me, I forgot Ogopogo. But I didn't look him up, so I couldn't.
Ogopogo is in Canada, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Champ is in Lake Champlain, which is Michigan.
No, New York State.
New York,
and Vermont.
Somewhere up that way.
That's where it borders.
And then obviously,
There's
Nessy's in.
There's another
Scotland.
one. I want to say there's one in Florida. It's kind of northeast.
Really?
I can't remember the name of it to save my life. I tried looking for it, couldn't find it.
Now here's one for you.
But it's like northeast of Lakeland.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. The Congo River.
Mm-hmm. Michele and Bimbe. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
There's reports of a dinosaur-like plesiosaur that roams the river.
Yeah. Now that's the one that it's split into two. Some people say it's that, and some people say it's a brontosaurus.
Like a
Yeah.
brachiosaur, yeah.
It's they use the same name to describe it in Michele and Bimbe.
But there's
And-
two different descriptions
right.
of it.
But here's the thing: if you were seeing something like that and it was in the water, if you saw that long neck, even if it was a brontosaurus or a diplo or brachiosaurus or anything like that, the neck's probably going to look about the same.
Yeah.
So, but I think there had been reports of this thing walking on land on four legs, not four limbs. So I would say that probably what they're sighting in the Congo would probably be more like a sauropod, which is a bronto or a brachiosaurus or diplodocus or any of that kind of stuff, because there's been a lot of follow-up reports that yes, it's been in the water, but it's also been walking on land. And think back to the books you saw when you were a kid with dinosaurs. Most of the time in swampy areas, you'd see the pictures drawn with a brontosaurus and things like that. Because I would think, being as big as they were, they would have to support themselves in water sometime to kind of offset some of that
weight.
Yeah.
There was a movie based on a dinosaur in the Congo, on a brontosaur back in the 80s.
Baby.
Was that the name of it?
Yep.
Sure was. Had the greatest American hero himself
I never
in the movie,
seen
William
the movie.
Catt.
I never seen the movie, but I remember seeing the advertisements for it. Now I know what to go look for.
Yes, it's actually on either Netflix or Tubi or Hulu. It's on one of those streaming platforms.
Really?
Right now. Yeah, I saw it not too long ago.
They find a baby. It's the mama died or something, and they raise it.
Yeah. Well, the reason they were out there is, and all this is based on the stuff that the natives had said and still say, that they had eaten the meat off this strange creature and they got sick. So that's what they were doing out there, was trying to figure out what was going on with this sickness. And they were supposedly eating the meat of the mom after they killed it, and it was getting them sick, and then they'd end up discovering baby, and then that's when movie time takes over, and it ceases to be based on anything that was, any accounts that were coming out of there. And
So it was loosely based on some true story.
yeah, well, the general synopsis of the movie was kind of, because that's something that I've heard on plenty of different documentaries, that some natives have said, you can't eat that. You find that you can't eat the meat. It'll make you sick. It'll kill people. So they don't eat it. That was one of the biggest, from every. Well, when you got 15 different tribes out there, that was like one of the most common things that all tribes would say is, "Oh, no, we don't eat that." You find a hippo, and you living in a place like that. Generally, you don't let stuff like that go to waste.
No,
it's not like they can't go down to Walmart or Target or Bilo or whatever grocery store we go to.
Something that big, it's like you can be feeding the family
if
for
nature,
a long time.
Yeah, nature provides for you. You usually don't let resources like that go to waste. But they're like, no. Now you think about something that big, that's a lot of meat. That would feed a lot of people, but they don't touch that. And so that was where some of that part of it came from. Was that people were sick, people were dying. We're out here trying to figure out and try to help them. Then we discover the dinosaur, and then, like I said, movie time takes over, and then it goes to the evil doctor who's trying to, and the greatest American hero is trying to save the day, just not as the greatest American hero.
Right.
It's a cheesy '80s movie, but it was actually, I think, a big budget film when it came out.
Like so, I never got a chance
It
to
was
see it.
it was actually like good CGI.
Yeah, and I think Disney had something to do with it.
It's possible.
Well, it wasn't CGI; it was animatronics, and it was right about the time that they were really getting into that with like Epcot Center and all that kind of stuff, where they were really starting to get into that stuff. So I think that's why when they really first started getting into live action movies and things like that, because Disney owns everything now anyway. So.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, check it out. It's like I said, it's an old '80s movie, so you got to watch it with a grain of salt, not expect, but it's not bad.
One of these days, someone's going to come out and say every movie you ever watched is actually a documentary that's actually based on fact.
Well, we say that all the time. I mean, most of the time you see something in a movie that seems so far-fetched and outlandish, it's based on some
grain of truth.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the plane in the first part of Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, that's based on the what was supposed to replace the SR-71 Blackbird. And there was actually a prototype. I mean,
I never saw the movie.
A prototype to the SR-71. There was actually an advanced version of that was supposed to come out. It never came out. Well, this plane, when you see it, the plane that he's flying in the very first of the movie, that's what that was based on. And they got it as close to what the prototype was going to be as they could, or as they were allowed to.
They actually got engineers from
Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
And it was built as close as they could possibly, or were possibly allowed to make it look to the real thing, what the real thing would have looked like.
China actually diverted a military spy satellite to look at it.
So, bit of movie trivia for tonight. But back to our subject.
But Champ, did you know he was part of the Native American lore of the Abenaki and Iroquois Indians for the longest time, and he could be a vengeful monster unless he was sacrificed a virgin every year.
Why do all these monsters have virgins?
Don't ask me.
I mean, that's like a common factor amongst all these things.
All your ancient stuff was always based on virgins. Look at Islam to this day.
But think about it.
Purity.
It's the exact opposite in all these scary movies nowadays.
Well, there ain't enough virgins in modern time.
Well, being a virgin is the only thing that keeps you alive in most of these horror movies. Back then, being a virgin is what got you killed.
Yeah.
So,
But it was, you had to sacrifice a virgin.
A pure sacrifice.
Pure sacrifice. And sometimes you could sacrifice also like an animal. You send it out in a canoe and the lake monster come along and grab it. And in the early 1800s, there was a rash of sightings of an enormous snake-like or water serpent of 25 to 30 feet in length. And it was known to attack the canoes and grab a person or an animal. And that's what it was doing.
But let's think about this in terms of today and what we know about animals and things like that. Big anaconda that has a meal of a capybara, which is what, a 30-pound rat basically.
Mm-hmm.
It can survive off that one meal for weeks, months, whatever.
Maybe a week.
So, but you think about it in these terms. These animals like that, they get a big meal like a human.
Mm-hmm.
It's you see where I'm going with this, Johnny?
Yeah, maybe a month.
Yeah. We've got to appease him, and we feed him the virgin, and then he'll leave us alone for a while. Well, yeah, he's going to leave you alone for a while. He's got a full stomach. He's got to digest for a while. So, I mean,
And if they had any sense, like we know now, let him eat that one virgin, then go cut his head off, because once they get that thing halfway in them, you own them.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't thinking.
Here's an interesting fact for you. The state legislations of both New York and Vermont have passed legislating protecting champ as a endangered creature. In other words, you're not allowed to go hunt it, hurt it, or anything. It's a protected creature under the state of New York and Vermont.
So why would it be a protective creature if it doesn't exist?
Exactly.
If it's a cryptid.
Probably the same reason that Oklahoma put out the thing about hunting Bigfoot.
And there's other states that
There
do
you
that
go.
with Bigfoot as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about it before. Bigfoot's actually in the Army handbook.
And
Yes.
and what Anthony brought it up on DA's show about Florida has it in the hunting guide about the ape type.
Mm-hmm. Ape-type creature.
Yeah.
How is that? Well, I can't remember how it's
I
worded.
think it was ape type creature.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
It was something along those
it was
lines.
Skunk ape.
It makes you wonder that if supposedly they don't exist, and why did they acknowledge it? And
Well, and this is a rabbit hole that we can go down, and I don't mind going down it. But DA said it many times. Teddy Roosevelt was the one that
initiated
Initi-
national parks.
the national park thing. We talked about. You just mentioned how much you can hide in 700 acres of a lake. How much can you hide in 1,000,000 acres?
700 miles of a lake.
Well, yeah, 700 miles.
Decimal points.
But how much can you hide in 1,000,000 acres?
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't carry a firearm. You can't go hunting. I mean, he thinks Teddy Roosevelt what's the guy's name that wrote the
Bowers or something like that.
the
Bauman.
Yeah, but Teddy supposedly just took the eyewitness account of this guy, way too well written for just an eyewitness
Teddy
account.
Roosevelt was a renowned hunter.
Yes.
And outdoorsman, naturalist. It's very possible he had his own encounters.
If I could pick one former president that I would love to sit down and have a discussion with,
It would be him.
it'd definitely be
He
him.
was a true badass man.
Oh yeah, he was.
Took a bullet on inauguration day and then still did his speech.
Led the Rough Riders up
Yeah.
San Juan Hill.
Yep.
I mean,
I would
he was
love
police
to.
commissioner of New York City at one
I
time.
would love to sit down and talk to old Teddy. Say, listen, tell me about Bigfoot.
He's an amalgam of cool.
Yes,
Yes.
but so we talk about this all the time, though. We've said it on this show. We've said it on DA's show. You don't have legislations like that, or things like they do in Florida or Oklahoma, just for the sake of it. I mean,
Washington State, they got a protection clause on Sasquatch.
well,
they named it like 3 or
and
4 different.
Well, you think back to Mount St. Helens. They talked about helicopters coming in there and flying huge covered.
Bodies.
Yep.
Well, it was bodies as far as we know, but they would come in and drop these big nets, and they would come up with these big tarps over it, so you couldn't ever see exactly what it was. But they said they were doing that all, and that's where Ape Canyon was.
Ape Canyon was around Mount St. Helens. Did not know that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know which slope it was on, which face it was on, or if it was actually in the blast area, but it was in that same general area.
How do you think Ape Canyon got its name?
Oh, yeah, that's
The circus didn't come to town.
Yeah, that's one of the most famous encounters in American history.
But yeah, it's just amazing sometimes that, you know, that the deniability in one aspect, but yet then you see legislation or documents that are put out by the federal government about these things that supposedly don't exist.
Well, and just think about all we talked about it on our UFO show. You know, all the pilots that, you know, all that stuff's recorded, but it's all deep sixed in a vault somewhere.
And a lot of them were told, okay, if you run into this, you're not supposed to say anything about it. If you report it, it doesn't happen. When I was overseas, there were things that I was told, yes, you've seen it, but you're not going to report it. It didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean,
you didn't see this. You didn't see that.
Well, how many soldiers die in training accidents that are never training accidents?
Too many.
That were, you know, overseas in some covert black operation. That, I mean, we know our government covers up stuff. I mean, nobody in this room is that naive to believe that our government is the nice, caring, loving.
White armor.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, and no world government is. I mean, every world government has
shades of gray.
Itself.
They're secrets. There have to be secrets.
But when you say, what does the American government, what's their main objective, is to make sure the American government keeps going, not the American people, the American government. You know, what is Germany's main goal? To make sure the German government keeps going. Russia, all these world powers, UK, that's their main goal, is to make sure that their way of life, their government, their whatever it may be, keeps going. So, we kind of drifted off of sea creatures and kind of.
Well, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, but I mean, but like you said with the legislation, I mean, that just kind of.
I know, it opened my eyes when I read that. I'm like,
yeah,
wait a minute. They're acknowledging something that supposedly doesn't exist, but.
Yeah. And you know they have cute little festivals.
Oh, yeah.
At the towns all around there. So.
Yeah.
A lot of places have cute little festivals, and like recently up here in Walhalla, South Carolina, they did the Bigfoot Festival, and then reports that were some Bigfoot up that way that same night, next day. You know, I'm not going to say yay, it happened. I'm not going to say no, it didn't happen. I wasn't there.
Yep.
So the person that was had his encounter. Everybody has encounters in some way, shape, or form. And we're all going to see something, hear something in our way, shape, or form. We're going to see something. Whether people believe us or not, that's upon them.
It doesn't change your experience.
No.
It's what we experience and what we open ourselves up to, and to what we open ourselves up to around us. And that's why we're here, to kind of share this, to open up people's realities.
Yeah.
And then when I find a little thing like state legislation or federal documents acknowledging a subject that technically is not acknowledged in one hand, but it's acknowledged in another, really makes you wonder.
Yeah, it does. Well,
Even
that was
if it's tongue-in-cheek. It costs money to pass that stuff for the time.
Yeah. Well, that was a kind of a
Interesting.
major rabbit hole we just dove off into, but you know, that's kind of what this show's about.
Mm-hmm.
But what we got for next week's show, Norman?
How about Thunderbird?
Oh, the Thunderbird. What do you
Not
think,
the
Johnny?
drink now.
You got me excited there for a second.
Or the U.S. Air Force aerobatic team. We're talking about the Native American Thunderbird.
What do you think, Johnny?
That sounds like a winner.
All right. Well, guys, you're going to have to tune in next time to hear about the Thunderbird. But, Norman, how can they reach us or get in touch with us?
Well, we have a Facebook channel now called What's Really Out There. We post some of our podcasts there now and some of our misadventures of the team and independent information that comes our way from people who might have a story to share or pictures of an event or sighting or incident. We'll post information there. You can find us there, like I said, at Facebook at What's Really Out There, and through Robbie's valiant efforts of keeping us up to date with our podcasts, and he'll tell you where you can find us there.
All right, our podcast, you can reach us through Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the big three. We're on a few other channels, but if you just search us out on Spreaker, you can find the podcast there. Also, you can reach us at our email address is what'sreallyouthere2022@gmail.com. That's all together. What's Really Out There 2022. If you got a story you want us to dig into or want to tell a story, want us to read it on the air, we can do that. We can come out and do an investigation if that's what you need us to do. If you got a problem that you need us to look into, just give us a shout out either on the email or on the Facebook. Norm pretty much monitors the Facebook all the time. I monitor the email.
I check for smoke signals.
Yeah, Johnny monitors the smoke signals. He looks at the horizon. But other than that, Johnny, you got anything?
I can't wait to get the Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Guess you're going to tune in next time to find out about the Thunderbirds, guys. But I guess that's all from the cabin tonight, guys.
Thank you for being with us tonight.
Have a good one.
We'll see you next time.